Hosheh MMA. Listen man. مساك وورد معطر ياسمين، شباب صبايا ايمن مسكين، وقت طارق اهدى كتير حكيت انت، لما هوشي يبدا اسكت لا تندم. عكس لوز وسكر زيهم ابيض اسمر، طارق عم يتمسخر، ايمن بس بتحضر نفس التايتين ع اكبر شوي، لو تحكي قدامه راح يبلعك ناي زي راجنر. ايمن يغزو طارق بالا غنز وروكت بس ما طارق، حتى حوارهم في كتير زناخه مسك حاله ايمن.
Good morning, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. With you is Startup from Hosheh MMA, and today we've got with us two very special guests. These gentlemen are two of the most influential people in the MMA game today. With us, we've got today Uday Attar, founder and CEO of Paradigm Sports, and with him his partner and SVP, Azhar Hamad Sol. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us, Tara.
Thank you so much for coming on. Look, I know you guys have limited time, so I want to get started, get right into it. For those of our listeners and viewers who don't know who Paradigm Sports is, can you tell us how did this Paradigm? I mean, Paradigm manages Conor McGregor, Izzy Adesanya, Amir Al-Bazi, Michael Venom Page. I mean, the list, the roster of fighters on the Paradigm Sports books is insane. So can you guys tell us a little bit about how Paradigm Sports actually started? How did this thing happen?
Sure. Hello to all the listeners out there. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And obviously, I'm a big fan of the show as well, as it's been such a breath of fresh air of bringing fresh, live, real reporting from the world of MMA into the Middle East, which is near and dear to both of our hearts, and now also here with our office in Dubai that as leads. It's special to be able to be joining you guys here today with Tara. So thank you for having us, Tara.
Thank you so much.
So Paradigm was a company that I founded now over a decade ago. I think we're heading into our 12th year, if I'm not mistaken. And I founded the company after working 7 years as an NFL agent. I founded the company after realizing that there was a void in the business. I was a former athlete myself, and my purpose, my professional purpose, was really to try to be the best athlete advocate I can be. And during my time with another company, I realized that not everybody really believed in that purpose. It was more transactional for people, or people really loved sport or were passionate about sport and got into it because they were more fans of a sport rather than being true advocates for the athlete. And at a certain point during my career, I realized that I wanted to do a lot more. I wanted to build something that was more special, something that actually gave a damn about the athletes, and also wanted to do things differently. I wanted to disrupt industries. I wanted to build things that people thought no athlete and or agency can build in sectors like consumer products or entertainment. And so I had a paradigm shift. And at that point in time, I went back to business school and I founded Paradigm Sports Management. And the thesis of Paradigm really at the time was to change lives and industries through sport. And the thesis kept developing. And although I, started out as an NFL agent, and my background up to that point was, although I played all sports growing up, American football was the sport that I excelled in from high school on to college. But I started to also really focus on some of the sports that were part of my beginnings, martial arts being one of them. And but it also fit the business thesis of really focusing on high growth sports, being the best in class from a management perspective, building media and content in and around our athletes and our ecosystem, and also creating a business venture platform where we're able to truly disrupt sectors through our athletes and our ecosystem. So that is the foundation and origination of Paradigm Sports and where the name came from.
Unbelievable.
Let me just add on to that, Tariq, if I can. So to Uday's point, we're not, a lot of people bundle us into this agency conversation. We're different. We're a platform. So through the touch points that Uday mentioned, representation, ventures and media, we're actually a platform that creates a client brand stack. So where the differentiating power for us is that we really want to build economic value for each and every one of our athletes. And the purest and most natural way to do that is through ownership of their own business ideas. So we ideate with them, we create with them, and bring to market things that are organically, aligned to their aspirations in life. And these businesses then obviously have an emotive connection with their consumer base or their fans. And that's really where you start to see some of the business ventures that we're known for, start to become more, well known and prevalent in the market. So it's a platform, really, it's a huge platform that athletes can leverage.
I mean, to me, it's very interesting. I mean, I'm aware of what Paradigm does. A lot of our listeners and viewers kind of aren't. So it's very interesting, and it's refreshing to hear you guys say what you're saying. The misconception tends to be in the market here, especially in the Middle East, generally is, what does a manager do? Well, a manager gets you fights, and that's it. That's as far as the understanding goes. In as far as, why do you need a manager and what does a manager do for you? So, I mean, if you guys could maybe elaborate a little bit more on that, as to what more does a manager actually do beyond just, helping you get a fight?
Sure. Listen, I think throughout the athlete's journey, throughout a fighter's journey, there's different needs and support that the athlete can benefit from, right? For us as a management team, we think of ourselves much differently. To Az's point, we don't think of ourselves as just a manager or an agent trying to book a fight or sign an athlete and then maybe procure a couple sponsors here and there. We truly think of it from a holistic perspective. We look at how can we help elevate this athlete's career, maximize it from an athletic perspective, but help them become the professionals and the businessmen and women that they have an opportunity at becoming, right? Because for them, athletics is also a platform. It's a platform to not only compete and do something they're so passionate about and potentially make enough money to not only take care of themselves, but their families and potentially generational wealth where they could take care of future family members and extended family members. But it's also an opportunity for them to develop as professionals, as businessmen and women, understanding that they have this platform on a global level to not only get the maximum exposure for their fights or their athletic competition, but to build businesses in sectors that naturally align with them or allow them to pursue passions outside of their athletic identity, developing their post-athletic identity, because the reality is no athlete's an athlete forever. All of them will transition into their post-athletic identity. And so for us as a management company, we truly approach it in a 360-degree manner. We look at, how do we help them become the best athlete? How do we help them become the best businessmen and women? How do we help them in any which way, including but not limited to, how do we help their family and their extended team members? So, that's a general summary. There's a lot that goes into that thinking and that practice. But that is, in our opinion, what a manager does. A manager is the professional element of an athlete's career. And that is very broad when you really come to think of it. And it's including helping sometimes an athlete realize residency, tax structure, what they should do to ensure that they're maximizing their income and also budgeting and being fiscally responsible as a professional. So they're able to continue to do what they do and support their loved ones.
You're so right. And we've seen it so many times where an athlete is doing great while they're fighting or playing whatever sport they're in. And then, you see them 5-6 years down the track and they're broke. And they're working as a personal trainer at a gym. All due respect to personal trainers. It's a good profession. But, this guy was a millionaire not long ago. So really understanding that, building a brand around yourself. I mean, I look at some of the deals that Paradigm Sports has done, Puma with Izzy Adesanya, Title Sports, all the things you guys have done around Conor McGregor. So when I'm speaking to young athletes, especially here in the region, I kind of always sort of try to preach that message to them is, guys, your manager doesn't just get you a fight. Your manager really helps build your future. First of all, they build your fight career by getting you the right kind of fights, right? And then they also put together business deals.
It's a responsibility. I think, the majority of managers see it through the lens that you just described there, but we see it as our responsibility for them, to develop their business enterprises. And the commercial element is hugely important, as is the media and PR work, right? So we do a lot of work on this side. I mean, it's there's a lot of work to do, I will say. I mean, this is a very young sport, and what you just described here, history has shown across multiple sports, football, the American stick and ball sports, where the I guess the advocacy of athletes that he speaks to hasn't necessarily been there.
Yeah.
So you've had these incredible names that have built brilliant professional careers, and fast forward 5-10 years down the line, there's little to show for it, right? So for us, it's a responsibility for them to not only protect that wealth, but grow it as well in different means.
It's, you know, I want to thank you both for elaborating that point so much, because it really is important. This is something the main purpose of me wanting to have you guys on the show was to really try to drive this message, because I see a lot of young athletes, especially in this part of the world right now, coming up, and there's some real talent in the region. You know, and this is the message, guys. Please know that your management is probably as important as your training. What happens outside the cage is as important as what happens inside the octagon. Please. So, you know, I want to thank you both for talking about that a little bit. If I can, I wanted to move on to athletes on your roster. And I'd be remiss if I didn't, you know, get you guys to tell us a little bit about the A-list athletes. And also, if you can, tell us a little bit about the youngsters you've got coming up. I mean, we saw on the weekend what you had with Javid in the Dana White Contender Series. Unbelievable prospect. So I'll hand it over to you guys. Tell us a little bit about who's on the roster right now and what's coming up.
I mean, we've been so fortunate and blessed to be able to work with some of the best in the sports history, and not just MMA and all combat sports. So, you know, you've named some of our top clients, legendary clients like Conor McGregor, like Israel Adesanya, Chris Cyborg, Michael Bisping, and even in other combat sports like kickboxing, like Rico Verhoeven, who I was just fortunate enough to be in Holland for his last amazing battle with Jamal Ben Sadiq, which was what a battle between those two warriors. That was just an amazing fight to be at, and I covered the emotional spectrum of what I think a back and forth battle looks like. But then we have some amazing stars like Leon Edwards, Michael Venom Page, and these are names that are known within the MMA world, but I still think that they're on the rise in terms of what they're going to continue to accomplish in the sport. And then our youngsters, as you mentioned, not only Javid Basharat, his brother, as well is up next, as I just wrote to him as well, which I think is something that people are going to start talking about, the Basharat brothers, for some time. Amir Al-Bazi, who's the Iraqi UFC fighter, but then you have Muhammad Makayev, and really a lot of young talent coming up that we're very excited about. And it's tough because there's so many to list and name, but we're honored to have that opportunity to be able to work with that many amazing athletes and human beings. You know, I always sometimes wake up and, you know, when we work so hard, we always in our office with our entire staff, which is all over the world, we talk about 25/8, because this is a career. It's not a job. You don't clock in, clock out, and you got to work as hard or harder than what our clients do in their respective craft. But at times, you know, you're working, you're away from your family for sometimes months at a time. But you realize, I don't have to do this, I get to do this. And when we look at our roster, that reminds me every day how fortunate we are to be able to work with some of the best in the world, not only the most legendary names, but the future legends as well, that we feel are just changing the game as you see it every day. Like, not only from an athletic perspective, these athletes are becoming that much better, but also just how they conduct themselves, how they carry themselves. They've really been, you know, students of the game in every sense of that phrase and saying. And it's exciting to be a part of that, because we also try to really, really counsel them and advise them to become the best versions of themselves, which is part of the reward for us. It's seeing that growth in each one of our clients, from the mature ones to the younger ones. And knowing that, you know, you contributed to that process. I'm very proud of that.
What does it take, if I can ask you? Like, I'm a good fighter. I've won a bunch of regional regional promotions. I've got myself a couple of regional belts. Can I then approach Paradigm Sports? I mean, is there a vetting process? Will you guys manage anyone who's just a good fighter, or is there a specific type of person you're looking for?
We have a great staff now, and I think now we're up to, I think we have 8 managers. So even within just the combat sports world, I'm speaking only about this sport for now, but we have that in all the sports we get involved with, right? And we have a scouting analysis. So we look at athletes, not only the height, weight, speed variables, watching the film, watching the strength of their schedule and the opponents, watching their interviews, how do they come across, looking into their background, looking into, what weight class are they in, what region are they from. But we also start to dig deeper and try to really get to know the person. And, it's science. There's a lot of science that's to this. There's a little bit of art that goes into it. And sometimes you're just fortunate enough because of the relationships that we have and the work that we've done that we are honored to get to work with some people that actually come to us, right? So it's a process that we definitely have internally, and we try to always grow that process and learn from our own process and from our own history, because you don't always get it right, and sometimes you miss, at the end of the day too. Yeah. So it's one of those things that even for us as a company, we have to continuously evolve. We have to continuously look at our own internal processes and standard operating procedures, including scouting, and say, how are we going to get better to find, the future Conor McGregor, future Israel Adesanya, future Chris Cyborgs of the world, because they're out there and they're training their butt off, and nobody's clapping for them right now. And there's not a million people tuning in, but they're as dedicated, and they can see that vision for themselves that's going to get them there. And it's about making sure that we as a management group are able to find them early on and help them get there and maximize their journey every which way, ensuring that we help them become the best version of themselves, achieving that dream of theirs.
I kind of wanted to lead you down that line, just because there's one thing that you said: we watch how they come across in interviews. So it's not just you're good in the cage and you've got a good record. You've got to have a specific kind of personality, right? Like, you've got to be the kind of guy who can be managed, can build a brand around them. You can go into business with them, right? You can't just be a good fighter. Yeah, you've got to be more than that. Listen,
yes, that's actually a plus. But we have clients that aren't the best interviewers, or they don't like media, and they just want to compete in their respective athletic careers. And we advise, and we strongly advocate, we strongly try to coach. And sometimes someone's just not into that, and that's okay as well, right? So I would tell you that if someone checks all the boxes but is not a great interviewer, is that something that's going to turn us away? No, not necessarily, right? Okay. But it is definitely an element of our process that we look at, right? And it is an element of our coaching, our counsel, our advisory position, that if you want to maximize your career, you got to try to be the best, not only inside the octagon, but outside the octagon, or whatever respective sport or promotion you're in, right? So at the end of the day, it is, in today's world, it's not just athletic performance, it's part entertainment as well. And fandom is built by the connection that a fan has to the athlete. And that only comes across through interviews or your social media nowadays, right? So, and definitely when you encounter fans on the street. So I think it's important for us to really at least give everybody all the same tools and the same understanding and the same, knowledge, if you will, so they can become the best version of themselves and understand what they need to do if they truly want to achieve a certain level of success.
That's brilliant. Look, I know you guys are pressed for time, but I've just got a few more for you. I want to get into a little bit of UFC 267. I know, I'm going to be at the event tonight. I think you guys will be as well, obviously. I want to talk a little bit about Edwards versus Masvidal. And I would be remiss if I've got Conor McGregor's managers on the show and I don't ask them about the return and recovery of Conor and when we can expect to see him back. So you and if I can, I want to talk a little bit about, I know you guys are pressed for time, but I need to get through this. Leon and Masvidal.
I'm excited. Now, look, that fight, I think all the fans know is long overdue. And, I think for Leon, the most important thing was making sure that he was adequately looked after, right? If he's going to effectively jump in and take a fight because there's bad blood and lose his sight on the title, which he's been working his butt off for, it was important that it made sense. And I think, Tim Simpson, who's our senior vice president of our MMA management division, who's Leon's manager, did an amazing job of negotiating a deal that financially compensated Leon as if this is a title fight. So at the end of the day, now he could go settle a score, and there's also going to be, a financial, bonus and benefit to him to do so. But also it ensures that if he handles his business, he's gonna be fighting for the title. So at the end of the day, I think that for us as managers, we had to make sure that, how do you marry the promotion's desire to make this fight and the client's desires and make something work? We're always about doing good business. It's never easy. You're not always going to agree with the other side. You obviously sit on the opposite side of the promoter, but ultimately what we've always tried to do is figure out solutions that will allow the promoter to get what they want, our clients to get what they want, and for good fights to happen for all fans around the world. And that one is sure to be set with a lot of fireworks, not only fight week leading up to it, but then obviously come fight night. So I'm really excited about that one. I'm excited for Leon because he gets his due. He gets his due, excuse me, not only from a compensation perspective, but he gets his due to go ahead and settle a score with some bad blood, and then also, the title thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, the bad blood is 100% real. I had Leon on the show yesterday, and I'm happy he's going to get paid properly for it. I'm happy he's going to get his title shot after it if he wins, and I can't wait. I mean, the card that fight is on is insane. So just all in all, the card, the fight, the circumstance around it, it's brilliant. I'll leave you guys
for the region again.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll leave you guys with two last questions. I have to ask about Conor. What's happening with Conor? When's he coming back? How's the recovery?
Listen, his recovery is going great. I think for now he's just focusing on his family and his businesses. I think he's such an entrepreneur and has built such an empire that right now his most important, points of focus have been family, his businesses. So there's no immediate, timetable or return date that I can give you. And it's not even been a conversation. It's really just been those elements that we've been focusing on. But I know that he's a competitor. So you should see him competing in something for sure. If it's not fighting, it's definitely in the business world. But as soon as we have a timetable, I promise you we'll come back on the show and we'll share some good news.
How do you respond to people who come up with, the same old, well, why is he fighting? Why would somebody with that much money and that much fame and that much power need to fight? What do you say to these people?
You're right. He doesn't need to fight, and maybe he never fights again. He's accomplished things in the sport that nobody else could ever take away from him. Right? He's a legend in the game, and at the end of the day, he has more money than I think potentially entire sport combined. Right? That's how successful he's become as an entrepreneur. The answer is why does he do anything that he puts his mind to? And it's because he's a competitor. So if he decides that he wants to fight again, it's because he's a competitor. If he decides he doesn't want to fight again, that's because he competed and he did what he had to do in the sport, and he's now competing in other realms like business. So at the end of the day, whatever he decides to do is truly because he's a competitor.
Fair. I'll leave you guys with one last one. I wanted to hear a little bit about, especially from you as to the future plans of Paradigm Sports. And we also, the article that came out not long ago about Dubai FDI and Paradigm Sports. If I could ask you just to go into a little bit of that, and then I promise that'll be the last one.
Sure. I mean, it's just an extension of what Uday's saying, really, in the sense that when we set up our office over here, it wasn't a token gesture or passive gesture. We wanted to actively build not only the sport here, but also from an economic standpoint, contribute to the great opportunities that this city gives us and this country gives us, right? So Paradigm UAE is really a reflection of our commitment to the region here. So in the next few months, I'm going to be excited to share some of our initial business launches we've been working fastidiously in the background with. We are working with quietly in the background with a whole bunch of different government entities, and through our platform, there's a recognition that we're able to influence from an economic standpoint, commerce, consumer products, and obviously through the athletes coming in and out. That's also a lot of fun, having them in town as well. But really, what you'll see us doing more so in the near term in this region is the ideation and creation of enterprises that bring out the best of our region and showcase what great work the region does on a global scale. So our platform really is a leverage for the whole world to see what great stuff happens over here. So a couple of really exciting businesses that I'll be able to share with you in the next few weeks, which will be our initial foray. And then we're always looking at different stuff. We've got scouts all over the region. We're very cognizant. Audi's from the region. I've been here over 7 years now, but slightly different background to him. I came from banking, so I look at a lot of data. I mean, we looked at this region versus Asia and Europe from a geographical standpoint. We looked at all the other sports that have achieved a sense of maturity now. Mixed martial arts, and mixed martial arts, particularly in the MENA region, has a huge trajectory of growth ahead of it. So we want to help support and grow that.
Brilliant. I'm happy to hear it. Obviously, that's kind of sort of the same as our mission here with a lot of the Arabic content that we do, is to try to, shine a light on these younger fighters and these local promotions.
Well, we love what you do. I mean, we love what you do, Tariq, and the Hosheh team. It's an authentic, reflection of what goes on here, and authenticity is important in everything we do. Everything we do has to be real. It has to be authentic to the values that we hold. So it's a pleasure to come on the show and speak to you today.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much. It was really, really kind of you guys to come. I know you're pressed for time. I hope I will see you tonight at the fights. I'll be with the common folk. I know you guys will be in the VIP section.
Listen, I hope we can see each other as well. And again, big fan of yours and of the shows. So keep doing the amazing thing you guys are doing to raise awareness to all the fighters from the region, and obviously bring the sport in a unique format. So keep going. And thanks for having us on.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys, and thank you. And we'll catch up with you tonight. Peace.
Take care, Tariq.
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye-bye.